So we pretty much know at this point Sony's entire 2015 lineup. You can say the same for Microsoft, for Nintendo, but I like to go a little bit further, and I like to see, what their development studios, like all of them, are working on at the moment, what they're probably working on, what's probable, what partners have they been working with recently. I follow Sony so much, and not a lot of people do. In fact, I'll say some people probably haven't even heard of some of the games or the studios that I'm going to talk about. And that's good. That's why I want to bring this information to you. So I'm going to go over their entire 2015 lineup and what's probable, what's not probable, and hopefully some people will learn something. That is the goal, to figure out what's coming out. So first of all, let's talk about what we know is coming out for sure, okay? And I have a total of 15 games that are going to come out, okay? Well, maybe 13. You'll see why. So, the first ones that we know for sure are Bloodborne, Uncharted 4, MLB The Show, 2015, The Order 1886, Tearaway Unfolded, and Ratchet and Clank, the reimagining. So, those are going to come out 2015 for sure. We do know those are coming. But then there's 3 different games that are going to be coming out. And this is from partners from different studios, and just they've talked it up. It typically takes 2 to 5 years to develop a game. For the most part, depending on the size of the studio, it's typically 2 to 3 years at this point. In 2014 going to 2015, that's how long it takes to make a game in this day and age. So 3 games that are probably going to come out. In fact, I'm like 80 to 90% sure they'll come out this year. Well, PlanetSide 2, they've said 2014. I think they said 2014. It's not out yet, so I can only assume 2015. They probably just need more time with it, and I'm sure it'll just be a downloadable title, but I really think they could sell it as like a physical release, but that's just going to a different subject. But PlanetSide 2 is probably going to come out, and for those of you who don't know, they have a development studio, Sony does, called Sony Online Entertainment. They make tons of games for like Steam and PC. Like they made, like I said, PlanetSide 2. They're making H1Z1 right now. They're making, they have a couple other titles right now, but they put out tons of free-to-play, like MMO-style games. So if you didn't know that actually is a thing. They actually have more that goes on Steam than what people actually realize. So yeah, PlanetSide 2 probably coming out 2015. Okay, that's pretty obvious. Another game, Gravity Rush 2. Now this game got announced years ago, okay, at Tokyo Game Show 2012 or 2013. That game got announced, and Gravity Rush, the first one, came out 2012. It's going to be 3 years since it came out. They already have all of the assets to make the game. The models are done, the project is done, they have the concept artwork that they're putting out. I believe there's even like gameplay videos, like demonstrations. So yeah, they were going to try to hit a 2014 release date. They couldn't do it, so they're going to hit 2015 instead. It's very obvious that it's coming out this year. So yeah, Gravity Rush 2, that is definitely something to look forward to. That's going to be this year's big PlayStation Vita game, most definitely. Now, the last one on the, like 80 to 90% sure list is Everybody's Golf for the PlayStation 4. This will be the next entry in their arcade golf series. Basically, it's been, like I said, 2 to 3 years since the previous one. They're constantly putting out, you have to even go back 10 years. Like every couple of years they put out an Everybody's Golf. And it's basically, this year is the next in line to put out this game, and it's Everybody's Golf. It's not a demanding game. It's not a huge development process to make it, so it's gonna come out. There is no way. You know what? There is no way this game is not gonna come out this year. it's definitely coming. So there is that. That is awesome. Okay. But then there's four different games which we know of their development, but we don't know too much about the games themselves. Now, what I like to call this part is it's probably going to come out at E3. It's going to get revealed then. So this is probably going to be the later part of the year for games. And like I said, we know four of them. The first one we know the most about. That is Hunger for the PlayStation 4. It is a new IP that is being developed by, I can't pronounce, I don't know if I can pronounce it correctly. It is Tarsier Studio. That developer, they've made Little Big Planet for the PlayStation Vita, I believe. Yes, that is what they made. And that is their only experience within Sony. And they're making a new IP for PS4, like I said. I don't know a whole bunch about this game. But yeah, it's a new IP. So we'll see if it's good. Not sure. They haven't really proven themselves as a developer, so it's hard to say what to expect. Then the other ones. So we know there's a good chance that Guerrilla Games' new IP is getting released this year. Guerrilla Games, they've made the Killzone games, okay? They've made every single one besides Killzone Mercenary and Killzone... is it Liberation for PSP? Yeah, so they're working on a new IP that's not Killzone, and I'm pretty sure it's actually an RPG game, if I'm correct. They're working on some type of... what I would assume to be a first-person RPG, which sounds awesome. That sounds incredible, and they make some of the best graphically appealing games. Maybe not the best gameplay, but graphically, they're insane. And in an RPG format, I can see this being a huge, huge title to look forward to. And Killzone Shadowfall, their last entry in the series, came out in 2013. And Guerrilla Games is a big enough studio to where they typically release a game every 2 years. Prior to Shadowfall, they put out Killzone 3 in 2011, so 2 years ago. And 2009, you had Killzone 2, and so, at least, was it 2009? It was close, okay? But anyways, it usually takes about 2 years to make a game, so hopefully that'll come out. If it does, that would be awesome. The third game on the list is Bend Studios' untitled PlayStation 4 project. Now, who's Bend Studios? I'm sure I'm like one of the only people that knows. Most recently, they made Uncharted Golden Abyss on the Vita, which is a pretty decent game. It's better than the first Uncharted, not as good as 2, not as good as 3. So it's almost Naughty Dog quality, but it's not quite, so it's still good though. And then previously they made like the Siphon Filter games. That's their big claim to fame. They made them on the PSP, PS2, I think they made the PS1 games as well. But yeah, so they're working on a new PS4 project. Now, it's not titled a new IP, so is it resurrecting an old franchise? It could be. I mean, if you think about what's possible, they're either working on a new IP or they're putting out Siphon Filter for the PlayStation 4, which I'm not sure if they'll do. I mean, they could, but it's hard to say just because the PS3 never got a Siphon Filter game for, at least I don't believe that the PS3 did, for whatever reason. So who knows in that regard, but something is supposed to come out 2015. And then the last one is Sony Japan. Now, Sony Japan studio is actually 4 different ones, but I usually only say Sony Japan for 2 of their studios. Reason being, under that branch, you have Team Ico, who obviously makes the Team Ico games. Then you have Team Gravity, who makes Gravity Rush. So, yeah, that's 2 of the studios technically under Sony Japan. But then, yeah, they're technically separated too. It's weird. But then there's 2 other ones that they go under Sony Japan. They're basically just additional developers. like a studio not necessarily to make their own games, but to co-develop with other Japanese developers and like so on and so forth. But every once in a while, they do put out a new game, and their most recent ones were Knack and oh my God, what else? Puppeteer. Puppeteer and Knack were their last games. So they typically put out a game every 2 years, or else they're just like co-developing. But if possible, this is a lot of speculation. If they were to put out a new game, it would come out in 2015. It would get announced, and I can definitely see it coming out just to add more to the pile of games. You know, where it's not a huge title. It's kind of like Everybody's Golf, where I don't think people really get excited, but it looks good on Sony's part to have an additional game. So I can definitely see a new game coming out from them. And then we're on the last two games. Now, these are total speculation. These are total games that have some type of, I don't want to say evidence of coming out, but you can definitely speculate that something will come out. So the first one is Sanzaru Games. They've done a lot of developing with Sony. They made Sly, Thieves in Time. They've made a couple of collections for the PlayStation Vita. And they typically work on a game for 1.5, 2 years. They're a very good developer. And most recently, they're actually working on Sonic Boom, which is kind of crazy, actually. But yeah, prior to that, they were mostly making Sony games. So if they were to make a game for 2015, there is a chance that it will be a Sony game, just based off of their track record. So they've worked with Sony and they worked with Sega. Who are they going to make a game for? Well, whoever throws them the most money, probably. So we'll see what they're going to make. If they make a new PS4 title, that would be awesome. If they make a Vita title, that would be awesome. But yeah, at this point, we just don't know. What I would like to see is some type of side story to some classic like PS2 games, like a sequel to like Secret Agent Clank or Daxter or something like that. Something that's not meant to be a huge AAA title, but more of a budget homage to some former IPs. That's what I would like to see. Either that or a collection ported to the PlayStation 4 with, I don't know, higher resolution, something different, something for me to play on the PlayStation 4. That's what I would prefer. Then the very last one is The Last Guardian. This game has been in development for, you know what? Oh, this is great. This year, it's going to be in development for a decade. A freaking decade. And typically, their games have taken 4 years to make. Eco I believe took 4 years. Shadow of the Colossus took 4 years. And so, if you look at it that way, you would think The Last Guardian would come out 2009. But you can also think about it where going from the PS2 taking 4 years to the PS3, it's probably going to be more than 2 years. So possibly 5 or 6, okay? We could say 5 or 6, most likely 5. And I mean, if that's the case, we would have expected it to come out in 2010. And here we are 5 years later. So they claim that it's still being developed. And I know someone from Team Eco left. Like, I believe it was the director or the producer. Like, a big figurehead at Team Eco did leave. So, what's the fate of this game? They claim it's still in development. They claim all these things. It's so hard to understand what they're doing. Now, they did put out an HD collection for Eco and Shadow of the Colossus in 2011. The Last Guardian was supposed to come out, we'll say, 2010. So it almost sounds like as soon as they couldn't come out, as soon as they had the development issues, they just hurry up and like put it aside, put it down, worked on the HD collection, and now they're going back to it. 2012. So I'm not entirely sure why this is. No one really knows at this point, and whether or not it'll come out. We're on the PlayStation 4 now, so maybe my only guess is because Sony didn't know when the PlayStation 4 would come out. They weren't, they might have been like tossed in like 2010 whether or not it should come out 2012, 2013, when should it come out. And I'm just assuming that they wanted to wait for the PlayStation 4 and then they have to rework the game to work on that hardware. That's the only thing I can think of. Then there's more development time with remote play, higher resolution, new hardware, so on and so forth. So you would think maybe, okay, an additional like 3 years, you have to wait for the game to come out. So, I mean, if there's a year to show this game, to show that they really care, it's 2015. If it's not that, the game is dead out of the water. Absolutely, it is totally dead. There is no way. I cannot see this game coming out unless they at least show us a trailer. That's the only thing that'll give me hope for this game. So, with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. Hopefully, you're excited for Sony. I know I am. Got my Vita, got my PlayStation 4, and hopefully it'll be a good year for games. So, see you guys later.